My name is Atul Desai, and I'm the technology head for Dheya Career Mentor. I'm in the technology industry for the last 25 years and have been leading large engagements in digital transformation, data analytics, and artificial intelligence. And I've been associated with Dheya for the last 5 years or so. Dheya, as you might know, is a premier career guidance and mentoring organization based in Pune. We have a strong community of 2,000 plus mentors who work with our unique and innovative methodology on a mission to energize the youngsters to achieve excellence in their lives and have a happy career. We have been conducting series of webinars on emerging technologies during the lockdown period to motivate our youth in India on futuristic careers. Today's topic for the panel discussion is drone technology or UAV. Drones have been around for the last 2 decades or so, but in the last few years, there has been a significant growth in the drone industry. They are no longer regarded as a play toy for hobbyists, but has many industrial, commercial, and military applications. So today we'll be talking about drone industry, the technology, the application, and the opportunities in this industry. And I'm delighted to have expert panel members who will give us an insight on drone technology and answer any questions that you may have. Let me introduce you to the panel members. We have here Commander Milind Kulashreshtha. He is a partner with the private drone manufacturing firm and a net-centric operations expert. He has been involved with various drone-based projects in defense and is an advisor of drones with a national newspaper. He has implemented numerous unmanned aerial solutions and drones has designed drones, weaponized UAVs for special forces. In his appreciation, drone is an evolving technology for the future and has multi-dimensional potential in commercial and military world. So welcome, Commander Milind.
Hey, thank you, Atul. So nice of you.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. We also have Wing Commander Som Biswas. He's a retired Air Force pilot and one of the few medium altitude, long endurance drone pilots in India. He's a commanding officer of the UAV squadron. He was a commanding officer of a UAV squadron and has led multiple unmanned aerial systems operations in the Indian Air Force. He has also worked with Tata Advanced Systems as a chief pilot for the UAV development programs. So welcome, Wing Commander Som Biswas. Also with us, we are fortunate to have Mr. Kailash Naik on the panel. He's part of the Accenture's Innovation Center and manages research and development work on drones. He has been building radio-controlled devices for the last years and loves flying and programming quadcopters. He's a drone enthusiast and owns several drones. And he also runs a very popular YouTube channel on recreational drones with over 7,000 followers from all over the world. You can see him in this picture with all the drones that he owns and the devices that he uses to play around with his drones. So welcome, Kailash, to this panel. Good to have you.
Thanks a lot, Atul. Pleasure is mine. Thanks.
All right. So with that, let me start with a very basic question. What exactly is a drone or a UAV? I know it can be as small as one of these, which I have in my hand, to something which is a very large aircraft. So, Commander Milind, if you could just elaborate on what a drone is and how many types are out there.
Yeah. So thanks a lot for the opportunity Dheya has given to us all. And for the audience, we have, I can see a large gathering. So that shows the interest drone industry has got. And I'm sure you have already a bunch of questions and there's a lot of curiosity around the drone as a technology. Let's start with some jargon clarity at the very beginning itself. We as panelists also have used 3 different terminologies. These are drones, unmanned aerial vehicles, and unmanned aerial systems. So what is a drone? In natural environment, drone is the male honeybee. That's how the word has gotten. How did it come into our public was that generally drone is a term which is used for all unmanned crafts. We have underwater drones also. The word got
Yeah.
really picked up when these unmanned aircrafts were being used for practice firing, where they used to be towed behind a flying aircraft, and the military used to shoot them down, the ones which are being flown. So
Yeah.
with the technology moving further, we had unmanned aerial vehicles, because there were underwater unmanned vehicles also which had come in. The submarines got
Mm-hmm.
evolved into underwater unmanned vehicles. So now what
Yeah.
happened is this unmanned aerial vehicle got the technology built all around it, in terms of payload, communication, battery. There's a whole lot of flight controller, electronics. So we started calling it unmanned aerial systems. Okay.
Right.
So in India, Director General Civil Aviation (DGCA) controls all the civil airspace and is the nodal agency for UAV regulations. They have
Mm-hmm.
categorized these drones or unmanned aircraft as remotely piloted aircraft, autonomous aircraft, and some model aircraft. They also fly. So these remotely piloted aircraft are subset of unmanned aerial systems. This is the official definition. A
Right.
remotely piloted aircraft and its associated remote pilot stations, the command and control and how we control them, have to be
Yeah.
specified in the design. So overall, Director General Civil Aviation has classified the drones in India based on their weight as the single most important criteria. What that means is
Right.
that we have categories. The one which you were holding, like, is a nano drone, right? It's less than 250 grams. Then next one comes micro, which is 250 to 2 kgs. A
Mm-hmm.
mini drone can be from 2 kgs to 25 kgs, and a small drone, mark the word small, can be up to 150 kgs. Yes, the drones can carry up to 150 kgs and more. The ones which carry more than 150
Okay.
kg weight are called the large drones. This is the basis considered to
Mm.
obtain various licenses and governmental permissions. So the overall
Yes.
weight is inclusive of the payload they carry. So I think that's how we can comprehensively define the drones in India.
Drones. All right. And I know there are quadcopters, there are single.
Engineering perspective, okay, uh, a drone is classified as either a rotary wing or a fixed wing, each with their own advantages and disadvantages. A fixed wing drone is more like a remote control plane. It just uses the aerodynamic principle, force principles to fly. The
Yeah.
launch of these fixed wing is attained either through a small runway, they take off from a runway, or it can be catapulted into the air. That gives the initial momentum to the drone, and or it can be hand launched. You can just have it in your hand and throw it, and then it takes off. The propellers take on.
Oh,
On the
something
other
like this.
hand, there are rotary drones. Let
Yeah.
me have a
Just a
look.
tiny hand one.
No, this is rotary. This is rotary. Okay. The fixed wing has got
Okay.
wings on the
All
sides.
right.
Okay, just like a plane, and then it takes off. Okay. So
Yeah.
good we are having this.
All right.
Good we are having this so that people get more clarity on this, and I hope I am
Yeah.
helping them. Right. So
Yeah.
the other ones are the rotary ones, like you were holding one. These are just like helicopters.
Mm.
So you have the helicopter type of drones. These are called rotary drones, and they are categorized based on the propeller configuration. Like yours has got four propeller sets.
Yeah.
So this is called a quadcopter. Quad is for the four. Similarly, there were
Yes.
six sets, which we all have got drones, which have got six, configuration of
Mm-hmm.
propellers. They're called hexacopters. And similarly, there are a few with octa, eight. They are dependent on what is the weight it has to carry and up to which height, because the air gets thin when it goes up. So based on these parameters, we have
Yeah.
all these kind of drones. There is a very interestingly, there is another set of drone, which is a combination of these two. It takes off like using the rotary drones, and the wings turn, and then it becomes a forward moving like a fixed plane. It cruises
Yeah.
for the long distance, and these are called hybrid drones. So for each application, we have a different type of
Okay.
drone. Overall, they are into these two, three categories.
Perfect. Very good. Good summary of the different types of drones, the categories, and also you pointed out about the licenses and the requirements from the Civil
Yeah, yeah.
Aviation Authority. We'll talk about the laws and laws and regulations later, but let me move towards Kailash. Kailash, you've been passionate about recreational drones. You've been a recreational drone pilot for quite some time. Would you talk about the recreational drones that you own? And also, could you talk about the favorite drone that you have?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So
Yeah,
there are different
proceed.
types of drones available in the market, and I think Colonel Milind has already given a very good brief about the two main types of drones, which is the fixed wing and the rotary kind. So in the recreational market, the rotary drones are more popular because it can stay still in the air, right? I think one of the drones that you just
Mm-hmm.
showed, a very similar sample is over here, a very micro tiny drone
Yeah.
that we have, right? So these are rotary and
Right.
they can stay still in the air. That assists in filming something and capturing something. So I mean, there are plenty of drones I have. I also have a couple of them over here to show you quickly. This, if you see, is one of the most popular ones. This is the called as the Phantom. It has again a 4K camera and all the necessary
Uh,
required things and sensors and things like that. So this is the Phantom,
I,
and my favorite drone, if I have to talk about, is going to be the Mavic. This is the Mavic. In fact,
Mavic.
this is the Mavic 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the Mavic 1, and this is the Mavic 2. Very advanced, very
Right.
capable quadcopters. They can fly almost up to 10 to 11 kilometers. I mean, if I have to quickly show you, I think you must have seen it, but this kind of expands completely into um, a four-winged quadcopter, and this can fly distances of up to 11 to 12 kilometers. There are multiple sensors all around the drone, which allows itself to locate itself, avoid
Yeah.
obstacles on its own, and things like that, right? And I also have, I mean,
Wow.
of course, Mavic is one of the most favorite drones and the one that I pick usually to fly. But I would like to quickly show you a drone that I created on my own. I built, which has to be my favorite. So this is a custom built drone specifically used for agriculture purposes and for spraying pesticides and fertilizers and things like that. So this is completely handmade. It can be used to in the agriculture purpose. It has sensors as well. It detects. It has imagery. So these are the different kinds of drones that are available currently. I really love the ability to create something on our own and
Mavic.
use it for a very specific purpose. Right.
Wow. Wow. Beautiful. Good. All right. Now let me move on to Wing Commander Biswas. Now you are a medium altitude, long endurance UAV pilot, unmanned aerial vehicle pilot. Now, can you talk us about the long range drones and how these are operated? Uh, I know these are not commercially available. They are sometimes very specific to military purposes. But if you could briefly talk about that, that will be really fantastic.
Right. First of all, hello to all of. What I would say is that Commander Milind has almost summarized the different types of drones, which we generally know call them as drones. However, the bigger family is unmanned aerial vehicles or unmanned aerial systems.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
again, you can classify them in different categories as per the weight, as per the function, as per the power generation. Like it's battery operated, or it's a fuel operated, or it's a combination of
Hmm.
two. All those things. So medium altitude long endurance is one of those category which generally is used by government organizations, I would say, if not only military but
Hmm.
government organizations, because the task is a strategic kind of task in which you don't want to just launch and get the task immediately. And you want to do a task for quite some time, a longer time, maybe 4 hours, 5 hours, 10 hours, even more. The
Yeah.
record time of being airborne of some of these aircraft is almost more than 50 hours. So
Hmm.
if you consider that kind of operations, then you will understand that you need a number of crew, you need to maintain them, to operate them, their fatigue and
Yeah.
all. Secondly, obviously they are not operating within the line of sight. They are already beyond visual line of sight and beyond. At times they are not even in the radio line of sight. So in that case, what comes in picture is the satcom satellite communications.
Satellite
So
communication. All
yeah,
right.
satellite communication, because even the radio ground-based radio communication set is not able to provide that kind of ranges for these kind of aircraft.
Sure.
Next comes what is the role they are being used for. So, in general, they are used for surveillance and reconnaissance missions. And surveillance, as you know, is a kind of operation which is for a sustained period over a particular area of interest. So, for that,
Hmm.
you need to remain airborne for a longer time. And not only that, you need to also record things, you need to send them back to the place where they are being monitored by a team of experts who can take action immediately. So communication is a very big requirement in such kind of operations of
Right.
these things.
Wow. Okay. So it's a wide spectrum,
Yes,
but let's talk about the industry as such. Drones from as small as this one to a large military drone. So let's talk about the industry as such. It's a $14 billion industry, and it is expected to grow significantly in the next few years. There's a lot of hype in the. I mean, if we see the Gartner hype cycle, it talks about drones already gone through the uh, disillusionment phase, and they're now into contentment phase. So uh, I would like to get some perspective from Commander Milind about the drone industry. From a global perspective, how do you see the industry actually growing?
See, drone has become a tool for humans to undertake a lot of activities. So the growth of the market will depend on the utilization and application of these drones, which are in areas like agriculture, effectively being used in plantation and many
Mhm.
other agricultural growth.
Yeah,
The mining industry,
yeah,
we'll be later on coming to more details of how they are utilized in each of these.
yes,
The
yeah,
power and other utilities, railways, construction, highway, delivery, and media. I mean, these are some of the most popular activities. But however, the most
activities. All right.
important application is going to be in the military. Till today, military holds
Mhm.
more than 50% rather work activities related to drones, and it is such an important arm for army and air force and navy. All the three services, they have started making squadrons which are UAV squadrons. So the
Yes.
drone industry is here to stay, and it has the future. It has the future. That's what I can say.
All right. How is the industry shaping up in India? I think
Yeah,
there are more than 50 startups in India.
yeah,
Can
yeah,
you
yeah.
talk us through about the Indian industry, drone industry?
Yeah, sure. See, in India, the drone industry is following a very similar path it has followed in many other nations. There
Mm.
is a lot of potential for growth of drone industry. However, there are some concerns and issues which naturally the government has got in terms of security, privacy, and the use of these drones. There are some risks which are involved, and because they are not able to control those risks, so the utilization of drone as a public growth has got some limitations in India to begin with. However, the government is doing a lot of work to come out with regulations and the technology to handle the drone management system. In The risk actually comes out with that we have about 103 operational airports all over India, approximately, and we are likely to have about 200 in next few years. The number of aircraft which are expected to be there will be more than thousands of aircraft in the air. So the Director General Civil Aviation is facing a challenge that how to coordinate the drones, which is slightly still not so organized, with the actual aircraft, because drones are real threat for flying aircraft. So Indian
Mm.
industry has a lot of potential and is taking shape. Government regulations, as usual, is taking some time to come through, but it is the future
Yeah,
industry for India to grow, along with artificial intelligence, I can say.
absolutely. Yeah. India, I think, legalized uh, the use of commercial and recreational drones in 2018. So, where do you see the sector growing from a commercial perspective? Maybe if Kailash could answer that question.
Yeah, sure. Like
Commercial
you
and
actually mentioned.
recreational drones, where do you see the sector growing?
Right. So, Mr. Atul, like you rightly mentioned, India legalized the use of drones in 2018. And the kind of usage, I mean, the first thing that people think about when they kind of consider drone is, of course, filming and photography. Now, like Commander Milind, mentioned, the other next sectors are agriculture, mining, oil and gas, surveillance, and things like that, right? Now, I'm sure there will be a lot of movie lovers in this group, and we all love watching movies. And the next time you're going to watch a movie, there is an 80% chance that the opening scene would be a drone shot. So that's the kind of dominance aerial photography has in the movie industry. And so, again, the permissions that are required, it's getting smoother. There are more, authorized ways of applying for permissions and legal approaches. So definitely filming and photography is one of the major areas where, the drone sector is going to grow. Now, apart from these, there are projects that we do with the oil companies, right? Now, there are pipelines laid for thousands of kilometers. We from Accenture, we did a project for British Petroleum where the pipelines that are laid for so many kilometers. In the earlier method, the technicians had to walk through the entire distance or maybe travel through it looking for leakages and try to fix it. But now there are drones automated, and the drones fly across these pipelines and they inspect for leakages both outwards and inwards, and they kind of when they identify something is wrong, they take a pause, they take pictures of that leakage spot in a 360-degree manner, and they continue on the journey. The information is sent back to the technicians, and only when technicians receive a message where there is something going wrong, they have to go and fix the issues. So not only is it faster with the use of drones, it's also basically cheaper and it's more reliable. So yeah, there is going to be a steady increase in the industry and the market for drones for sure. There are many other use cases, many different kind of use cases. I mean, I can go on talking about some lovely experiments that we have done with the drones and for different kind of clients. And definitely there's a steady increase in the drone market. Through Accenture, right, we did a project for the California forest conservation, and there's a specific kind of eagle. It's called as California condor. People can Google for it, and
Yeah.
which is going extinct. So the purpose was to kind of bring back the numbers and kind of increase their population as well. And the reason that they were going extinct is they feed on a specific kind of meat, which was they were not able to spot it very easily, right? And the way they kind of spot is they depend on the vultures. So usually when you see there is any dead animal, you will have vultures circling around it. So these California condors look for such vultures that are circulating, and they go and they identify the meal. So what we did is, the forest people, they artificially
Hello.
placed certain meals.
Yeah. So continue, Atul. What Kailash is mentioning, it's a very popular
Yes.
project.
I
So what happens? The birds get scared.
Mhm.
Yeah, they get scared whenever somebody tries to record them and note them. So drones can
Yes.
be, garbed as a bird and then taken and put in that area to do the shooting and the videography, and that what helps to move ahead in the projects where humans were finding a lot of limitation
Okay.
to reach those spots. So it was a very interesting project which Kailash is mentioning about, and a very popular one. And it was a successful project, by the way.
All right.
Also, Atul, if I can add, since we are in
Right.
right now as an educational institution,
Yeah.
the use of drones is again we can see the small drones which we can
Yes.
use in the classrooms for teaching three-dimensional movement of a body, the rate of movement, stability, torque effect, effect of
Wow.
winds on how do you counter the winds? What happens if you don't counter the winds? Motors itself is a
Okay.
big study. Aerodynamics, propellers, composites. I mean, you name it, and you can computation of algorithms.
Wow.
You
Okay.
can see so many things which you can teach as a student, as a teacher to your students.
So, Atul, if I can, if we you
Uh,
can give us some time, so we'll try to cover what all the parts of a drone are generally, so that people are familiar with that. If
yes.
you
Yes.
think we
Yeah.
can cover that.
I think we
Yeah.
will
Okay.
definitely. I think we'll definitely talk about the parts. But I just wanted,
Yeah.
from a technology perspective, I mean, we can talk about the different types of. We talked about different types of drone, but what are the
Yeah.
at a broad level parts of the drone? I mean, what makes a unmanned aerial system?
Yeah.
So if you could talk
Sure.
about that from a technology perspective.
Yeah. Oh, that's very
And
interesting.
my apologies, there have been some technical glitches from my side. I don't know whether it's from my side or it's with the tool, but hopefully it should be stable now.
Yeah. Okay. Good. That's a very interesting question. Obviously, it's unmanned, so there's nobody who sits inside this aircraft, and it's a aerial body. So it has to have a very, very accurate design to stay in air and work efficiently. So each of them have got
Yeah.
propellers. So these propellers are usually either on the front or on the top mounted for a quadcopter, and these rotary drones. There are very
Mm-hmm.
many variations in terms of size and material used in the manufacture of these propellers. Yeah, exactly what you're holding. Most of them are made of carbon
Yeah.
fiber for the strength.
Yeah.
The cheap ones may have plastic, but what we use professionally, they have got carbon fiber, and propellers are still being developed as a technology, and a lot of research is going on to create more efficient propellers for both small and big drones. The propellers are responsible not only
Okay.
to give a thrust, they also are used to give the direction, just like in a helicopter, and the motion to the drone.
Yeah.
It is important that each of these are always in a good condition and cannot be damaged. It has a lot of effect on the aerodynamics of the body. The second important component is the motors which are used. They are brushless motors. Earlier they were brushed, and technology guys know what is the difference between the two. So the strength of a drone is based on the type of brushless motor you are using. The efficiency of the motor is very important because the amount of battery or the power which you consume will give the limitation
Mm-hmm.
to the flying hours of a drone. We have a landing
Yes.
Yeah, we have a landing gear. Now this is a very interesting part of the drone because this carries the payload generally. So if there's a drone which has a
Mm-hmm.
camera for the photography, so we have a landing gear which protects this camera. So these cameras should not, once it lands, it should not be damaging the camera. And we have some landing gears which are used by drones which are for supply of items and materials. So the landing gear has to be designed such a way that it is able to encompass this weight within. The next very important unit, which
Right. Yeah.
Kailash has the drone, probably he can show those parts if it's in his hand. There is the
Yeah.
electronic speed controller.
You want me to show the ESC? Yeah.
Any, yeah, sure. So
Yeah.
there are propellers. There's a frame. Yeah, that's what he's pointing out. Then you have the electronic speed controllers, which are basically electric circuits. They are just more than controllers to control the speed of the drone. They can convert DC power, which comes from the battery, for AC for various circuitry which is there. Uh, DJI and all these
Sure.
drones have their own proprietary electronics on board. The other very interesting part is the flight controller.
Yeah.
Okay, how do we control a drone and where it has to go? The one he's showing on the top, that's the flight controller, and it is a motherboard of the drone. It is responsible for all the commands that are issued by the drone pilot, and it incorporates and converts those radio signals into the flying direction and the motion for the drone. It has the GPS module. It is definitely battery monitoring
All right.
system is there, and it's very intelligent system, by the way. We have a radio transmitter and receiver concept
Intelligent.
between
Very. Yeah.
the drone. Yeah, okay. Drone has a receiver, and the pilot who is here, who has given the flight plan and all, controls through a transmitter. So this is generally in the VHF range. By the way, live video can also be transmitted through the link which is available here. Military uses the UHF frequency band,
Yeah.
and the Wireless Committee of India has a very strict regulation on use of drones with the communication system. It can be interrupting it, and in military applications, we have our own transmitter receivers specifically designed. Otherwise, people can use the 3G, 4G, and if when
Yeah.
5G comes, that's going to be a boost for the industry.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We
And
have a GPS module. Yeah, yeah.
sure.
Okay, we have a GPS module.
Yeah.
We have a battery. Generally, lithium polymer batteries are being used, which you cannot carry in the aircraft, by the way. It's banned because it can, catch fire.
Yeah.
So, as an operator,
Yes.
those
Yes.
are the
Exactly.
challenges which Kailash, I'm sure, must be facing quite a lot. So, people buy locally
Yeah.
these batteries whenever they
Yes.
go. And obviously, the camera is a
Yeah.
very intelligent thing which a drone has got. We can have night vision cameras, thermal cameras.
Yes.
You
Yes.
can have so many types of payloads, which makes this unmanned aerial system. And the drones can be very expensive, can go into lakhs of rupees. So this is the general
Exactly.
description of a
Yeah.
drone and what is there.
Sure. Sure.
Great.
Good explanation on the various components of the drone, and I think thanks for Kailash to just demonstrate that drone in front of everyone. We just wanted to talk about the applications of drones. there are several applications, and I think one thing which I know is that about 5 or 10 years back, when drones started coming into the market, I mean, I'm just talking about general drones. They were more for from an amusement and recreation perspective. Things have dynamically changed in the last 4 or 5 years, and there are lots of commercial applications for a drone, and it's about generating value from the drone system itself by using the data that they capture, by using the various capabilities that drone has. And I think that's something which we wanted to talk about and give understanding to our audience about the value system as such of a drone. Some applications, the use cases that I'm aware of is aerial inspection, surveying, mapping of the buildings. There are quite a few, I guess. Maybe if Commander Milan, if you could talk about those applications, the industrial applications.
Yeah. So actually now drones, as you're seeing, it's not about a flying body. It is about how it's getting utilized. And apart
Absolutely.
from these utilities, drone has got augmented reality, virtual reality, AI, IoT, all linked along with it. It's become a tool in the whole ecosystem of technology. So coming to the applications, let's take the example of power and utility. It's used for the real-time information,
Yeah.
monitoring. It can be overlaid on a augmented reality so that people can know what is the value which was supposed to be there and what is being received in case of a temperature or a crack which they find in the ceramic or on the power line.
Yeah.
As Kailash mentioned about scanning the gas pipes through drones, which earlier used to be done manually. Obviously, you can't fly an aircraft; it's very expensive,
Yes.
and it won't be able to give the granularity in the picture to make that AI-based decision whether it's a crack or it's just a paint which
Absolutely.
has got chipped
Yeah.
off. So we can use it for
So
remote inspection, automatic detection of corrosion on equipment, and we can create a 3D model
yeah.
of the site which we are talking about, so that a general manager sitting somewhere knows what he's being fed as information, and this information
Sure.
can be
Yes.
transferred from
Yes.
drones to a handheld device through IoT. So the maintainer
All
goes,
right.
little guy
It's a
goes, he
complex
flies the
system, I
drone,
guess.
he's got everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So let's take the example of agriculture,
Yeah.
especially in Southeast
All right.
Asia. I've seen that it's been exploited very, very useful in terms of plantations. They just fly the drone, capture the images, and they're able to tell you when the fruit is going to get ripe in this, or there is a infection on the plantation,
Hmm.
and what are the measures, and it can go and put those chemicals also on this agriculture plantation. Though it is not allowed in India, some restrictions are there to put these things, the poisonous substance down on ground. So, though the technology has evolved everywhere, but applications in India are still restricted, and people are getting clearances. Coming to the example of
Yeah.
highways, the whole highways can be designed using the information available to the site engineer, and he can identify the maintenance aspects through drones instead of just making somebody go and report. And what repairs have been undertaken can also
Yes.
be checked, is what the contractor is claiming. So you have a real-time visibility to remote engineers who can access road conditions through a drone feed. Coming to mining, in mining, as you are aware, it's a
Drones.
shaft which is open
Okay.
on the Earth's surface. So the drone is able to create a 3D modeling, and they can do safety and security checks. And using augmented reality, create that if there is a mining blast, what is the effect and how people are going to be affected, and what are the security aspects in that. So the software and the drone as a tool have
Sure.
evolved as a high-tech part. Railways, Indian Railways is extensively using drones they have a railway line surveys which are supposed to be taken for health, or the new railway lines being to be laid. They get a very beautiful top view where they can design the rail lines. And there are a lot of bridges which are being now
Yeah.
monitored using the drones. The drone is able to give places where the tracks are likely to be there. It can reach those places and tell the engineers, railway engineers, that this is the problem area and you need to have repairs. Otherwise, it was humanly impossible to get a view of those bridges. So I can say these are the 4 or 5 main civilian applications. And in defense, there is no end to the applications
Yes,
of drone. Yeah.
yes, yes. And I think if come, Som Biswas, if you could talk about the defense applications,
Yeah.
I'm sure in your missions you might have done a lot of uh, new things, unique things, which are very specific to the Indian Air Force, and also in general military applications that you think are possible with drones.
Sure. Before I talk about the military part, I'll just narrate one interesting incident. In my previous organization, we were
Yeah.
demonstrating small UAVs to the Indian Railways as to how we can carry out the
Mm.
inspection of the railway tracks and the electrical overhead lines. And while we were demonstrating it, later when we were watching, analyzing the videos, we could capture, we could see that there was a theft going on somewhere. There were two people who were stealing things from
Wow.
one of the coaches, which was not monitored that time. But
Yeah.
later, we were analyzing the videos. We found and we gave it that videos to the Indian Railways, and they were able to capture that thing, which would have gone unnoticed otherwise. So there are a lot of even from the
Wow.
space application,
Yeah.
the high altitude, the long endurance UAVs, which can go up to 60,000 feet and above, which is almost about 18 to 20 kilometers. So instead of launching a separate satellite launching itself is a very difficult task, costly task. So instead of that, you can put it on
Yeah.
a large UAV and keep
Yes.
it on hold for several hours, several days. If it's a solar powered
Hmm.
thing, you can keep it airborne. You can use that. Now, from the military aspect, I would say
Right.
that there is a cliched line that anything which is dull,
Wow.
dirty, and dangerous, you can use the UAVs there. Okay, so search and rescue. Search and rescue is
Yes.
a very difficult task because if there is an air crash or there is a casualty which has taken place in such an area which is inhospitable, which is a difficult terrain. Now, help to reach to even find the location of that person is very difficult because if it had been
Yeah.
easy to reach there by road, then it's very easy to recover those people. But to make the identify the place, you need to loiter over that area for a long time. So in those cases, the UAVs play a very important role.
Yeah.
They have got different sensors. You can find where is the heat signature. Okay, there is a human being likely to be there, and subsequently you can pinpoint the
Yeah.
location. And this plays a very important role if it's a hostile terrain in terms of terrain, physical terrain as such, and in terms of the environment of that area. If it's suppose a conflict area or a enemy territory, in that case, instead of
Sure.
sending a manned aircraft there, if you send a UAV, it can stay there for a long time, and it can real time help
Correct.
your
Yeah.
ground forces. Okay, so that is one. Then it can also detect the movement on ground, the direction of movement. It can also detect the change in the terrain. Suppose somebody is
Yeah.
trying to build tunnels somewhere across border or something. So obviously for that there has to be some kind of movement of vehicles, some kind of movement of equipment. The terrain structure will get changed. So these changes can be recorded and you can analyze
Mm-hmm.
them real time as well as subsequently offline also. So that is where it plays a very important role in the combat in military. Secondly, during the
Sure.
combat scenario,
Yeah.
UAVs will be the first one to get airborne and the last one to land because they can do the role of wait and watch. They can see what is developing aware, and subsequently they can tell the people who are taking the decisions on ground to change the missions
Yeah.
or plan the missions accordingly. Real time threat
Sure.
assessment, real time assessment of your damage caused by your weapons, the guidance of your troops to the area of interest. So there is a huge role. Obviously, I cannot go into much details, but in general, I can say
Right.
that
Yeah. Yeah.
that the bigger UAVs play a very big role. But even the small UAVs for perimeter security, for close area patrol, like 4 to 5 kilometers or 10 kilometers, which is very useful for the land forces. So those are very important tasks from the drones perspective.
All right. Okay. Uh, the drone that we saw in the movie Yuri, is it a reality?
Uh, which one?
Uri.
Okay.
The movie Uri, we saw a drone. Is that a
Yeah.
reality?
It's not far from reality, I would say that.
Yeah.
It's not far from reality. I
Okay.
mean,
All
limited
right.
limited tests have certainly been carried out, if not to that extent. But yes,
Yeah.
there are tests in which GPS, I mean, where the GPS is not available, even there navigation is possible and communication is possible. So I would not say that it's a totally hypothetical scenario. And otherwise, there are few good movies to watch for UAVs. Like Eagle Eye is a very good movie if somebody wants to see. Uh, it will show a real-time
Yes.
use
Yeah.
of a military drone, how they are used.
Okay. All right. Good. Now let me come to Kailash. You talked about British Petroleum, where there was surveillance of pipelines. But apart from that, I'm pretty sure you would be aware of certain things which are growing in the logistics and delivery segment. Amazon, I think, is
Right.
almost ready with the drone delivery model. Trialing pizza deliveries. But main thing which I feel is delivery of emergency equipment. Perhaps something like a pill, which you I think mentioned in your one of your videos, which can be delivered immediately for a person who is
Right.
having a cardiac arrest,
Right.
or AED, defibrillator, just delivered quickly from a nearest location. If you could talk about that, it help and understand the different uses of drones which people can see, not just looking at the military side of it, but see flying over the
Right.
sky.
Right. So, I mean, we all are aware about how common heart attacks have become these days, right? And what
Mm.
happens when a person gets a heart attack is there's only a very small window of about 15 minutes within which he needs to be treated. Otherwise, things can get much more severe, right? And
Right.
considering the traffic situation in our country right now, an ambulance, even if someone calls for it, it takes at least 20 minutes, or it may take more time. So the technology that we have on offer, we have experimented, and it's already everything is ready. You can actually deploy it right now. What it does is,
Mm.
as soon as someone gets a heart attack, himself or someone in the family just needs to open an application on the phone and press a button. What that does, that automatically triggers a drone which carries a pill, right? It carries a pill. And a drone, of course, will be much faster because it does not have to go through the traffic. It can fly aerially, land on a predefined location. The pill can be taken and given it to the person. What this pill does, this pill thins the blood of the patient. And so the arteries open up, and it basically
Yeah.
gives another 30 minutes for the patient so that the ambulance can reach, take him to the hospital, and give him the right treatment, right? So this can be a lifesaver in many cases. And we are already
Absolutely.
working with a company in Mangalore, in southern India, where we are trying to pitch this in like the Uber for hospitals, right?
Mm.
Where emergency supplies on demand basis can be immediately supplied, and this can be a clear cut case where I don't see any reason why this shouldn't be used. So yeah, this is also one of the delivery systems on demand basis and very live that can be
Interesting.
utilized. Yeah, yeah. There's also something else that I wanted to talk about. It's not exactly related to
Yeah.
deliveries, but
I think.
yeah. It's something to do with
Yeah.
agriculture again, and the drone
Yeah.
that
Go
I
ahead.
showed right now, right? So, like Commander Milind was saying,
Mm.
these devices are extremely intelligent. I mean, imagine they're able to take decisions on their own. I mean, they see a spot based on what data they
Yeah.
collect on board. They can process: should I go left or should I go right? What should I be doing at this case? So we don't really need to download the data, then take an action. They can take these decisions while they're on the flight. So what happens? We all know that plants breathe on the basis of photosynthesis, right? So a drone
Yes.
that is equipped with an RGB camera and an infrared camera can calculate the NDVI value. That is that's basically a unit based on which you quantify how healthy a plant is. Today, our farmers are spraying pesticides across the entire crop, right? They don't actually see if that actually requires. They thoroughly spread across. That is not actually necessary. Today, the drones can calculate on the go the NDVI value of a plant and only go to the specific plant that requires pesticides to be sprayed, pinpoints there, goes, sprays pesticides, and goes ahead. So this is not only efficient, it's also valuable. It kind of brings down the amount of chemicals we are using in our plants. So the drone that I
Yes.
just showed, which is basically equipped with a tank and also the pesticide, it has the necessary cameras to analyze the health of a plant as well as to spray the required, medicines or fertilizers or
So
pesticides. So yeah, it's a very intelligent platform which needs to be exploited.
absolutely. Yeah, right. I remember working on a project about a couple of years back with a research organization, energy research organization, where drones were used to survey or inspect the large solar farms. They range from 2 kilometers to 6 kilometers or so, huge solar farms in Australia, where it used to take a picture of a thermal picture of each and every photo cell. And the project that I did was basically analyzing all the photo cells using a artificial intelligence or machine learning model, which can identify problems in those photo cells and photo panels, rather,
Right.
solar panels, and then connect to the what they call it, the asset management system, to raise a work order and completely automate the entire cycle of fixing those photo cells. An interesting project that I
Right.
did, started with
Right.
drone, had artificial intelligence and the operational side of uh, com- uh, raising work orders and fixing the drone, fixing the panels.
Interesting.
Amazing.
Nice.
It is quite amazing to see
Yeah.
all these applications in the drones. Uh,
Yeah.
I'm sure there are some applications in weather forecasting as well, which we know. If I don't know if Milind, if you can talk
Yeah,
about weather
yeah.
forecasting or any application that we have in storm tracking.
Yeah, sure. So, see, weather forecasting is a very challenging thing, which even data science is struggling. And the prediction of weather is, by the way, getting accurate. But satellites were being used till now, and there are a lot of
Mhm.
limitations when satellites are there. For any weather prediction, we require like some parameters like atmospheric pressure, humidity, temperature, and these are required to be monitored constantly in real time, so as to the prediction algorithm can give you result that this is the direction and this is how the weather is going to deteriorate. Tornadoes or hurricanes, as we call locally, they have to be understood well in time so that people can be saved from the destruction, and they are very powerful. So there are a lot of destructive powers, as we have seen recently in our West Bengal and Bangladesh area. So
Yeah.
what is done is that there are some strong specialized drones which are used here. Earlier, they tried to have weather balloons in the air, but with the strong wind currents, the balloons used to drift away and maybe lost in the location where you wanted them to be. Whereas the drones can be put into the situation where the winds are high. And in any case, if the drone drops somewhere, you can go and pick it up and the recording is still available. So the drones
Yes.
are being designed in such a way that they can be nearby to predict weather at least 1 hour before it's going to reach a particular spot, especially a tornado or a hurricane. So they have really come out as a very useful tool for the meteorologist.
Applications, I think, in this field are endless, and I'm pretty sure it'll continue to grow beyond what we can think of,
Yeah,
really.
yeah,
All right. We have, for
absolutely.
our audience, we have been posting some polls. There's just one poll which came out just recently, and I thought I'll just talk about the results. Uh, the question was, what increases your curiosity about drones? Whether it's reach, flying capability, application, adventure, technology, careers, or hobbies. 60% of our audience have said, sorry, 28% of the audience, 60 people have said that technology is their number one curiosity for drones. Uh, the next one is applications, the various applications that they can see. It's 19%. Careers is 14%. Uh, reach is 6%. flying capability 13%, and hobby is about 8%. So there is a wide spectrum in terms of what makes people curious about drones. Interesting.
Interesting.
In most of the cases, it starts with a hobby, and thereafter it goes
Yes,
to
absolutely, absolutely. And I'm sure Kailas would have done the same thing, started with a hobby and just made it
into
uh,
career. Yeah.
passion and then his career in drones. All right. Okay, let's talk about the research that's happening. And after we talk about research, I would like to talk about the career options, career areas in drone. Uh, I know there are a lot of things happening in this industry. Wing Commander Biswas, I think you've been working with IIT Chennai. Uh, could you talk about the research that's happening in that area?
Yeah, sure. So IIT Chennai has been encouraging all budding minds and in technology and startups in technology to be associated with IIT Chennai under their umbrella, and
Hmm.
also to new entrepreneurs. So there is a conglomerate of such entities who are into technology, whether it's not only drones but many different fields. So
Yeah.
one such conglomerate is named as Aerospace Industry Development Association of Tamil Nadu (AIDAT). And if
Yeah.
you know, last year DGC had invited applications for conducting trials for beyond visual line of sight trials of drones. So
Hmm.
there were certain requirements to be met by people who wanted to, or entities who wanted to uh, get qualified for these trials. So IIT Chennai under this
Yeah.
AIDAP head has also been selected to prove their equipment. So to carry out this beyond visual line of sight trials. So that it has got certain requirements, like you need not only to have a drone which can go beyond visual line of sight, you need to also have a setup to ensure there is a communication with the ATC, with nearby ATC. You also need to have a certain amount of control over the UAV at all times. It should be able to perform a task which is given to it. You should be able to modify the route real time. You should be able to recover the aircraft in case there is a failure at the launch base or any other determined base. It should not just get lost into the space if something happens. So emergency actions and all those things. So one such meeting took place about a month back with the DGCA, and the timelines have been decided, and we are into getting ready for conducting this beyond visual line of sight very soon. And by this year end, I am sure all those conglomerates who have been invited to take part in this trials will be able to produce results. We have to fly almost 100 hours of safe flying and efficient flying. We have to show records to DECA, where after which they will clear trials of operations beyond visual line. This is going to be a very important step to all those people who are now into this drone industry already and who are also willing to it, because as of now the limitations are very high, the restrictions are very high on operations of the drones, and it's a very logical thing. If you see, the pilot is not sitting in that aircraft, so therefore all the decision making bodies, they have a certain amount of apprehension. What happens is, I have realized that the unmanned starts to sound like unguided or uncontrolled, which is not the case. An unmanned aircraft is has got much more measures to take care of eventualities. So but we need to build up the confidence in the decision making authorities, and that can only uh, happen if the all the people who are into the drone industry think that the quality of the work has to be very high. As it is, the apprehension is there, and over that, if we have certain technology of the codes are not written properly, if the logics are not given properly, if the algorithms are not written properly, if the components are not tested before it is airborne, you cannot take an aircraft in air and then see whether it fails or not. You need to carry out a lot of testing on ground to see what is the mean time between failures, and thereafter you need to put it on that aircraft. That is how we can first thing build a reputation of our own who are building those products, and also build the confidence in getting the permissions for carrying out these operations. I think Atul is
Yeah. So,
offline, right?
just to add to what you have said, Vinkapandasom, drones have become so important that everybody is trying to make them more faster, agile,
Yeah.
and smarter. So,
Yes.
like IIT Delhi also has set up a lab, a drone lab. We had them to do that some part. So they have come out with some very interesting projects, and people are doing their thesis on projects like anti-collision and inside room drones, which can be
Yeah.
operated within the building. Because a drone requires at least 10 to 12 satellites to be available as a signal to be assured for a right path. And on our own, one of our aerospace engineer guy, he has been trying to make a bee robo, right? Which is like a drone which can flap its wings and fly, and it can go and sit on a power plug point and is able to get charged using that. And it can be used for some kind of a spying mission. Though it's a very ambitious project, will take time, but these are the kind of researches which are already going on. And we have in drone industry a lot of advances taking place. Boeing, Airbus, Uber, all are running their large projects. And if you ask me, there's already a model which has been tested in Dubai where a guy has been made to sit and he's able to fly. So the technology is taking leaps and bounds to grow. That's what I can say. So if
Yes, of course.
like Mr. Kailash was saying, the drone traffic management, that's another thing of the future. So, Mr. Kailash would like to say something on that. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So, especially on the traffic management. So, with respect to the traffic management, we all know that Amazon has been one of the first players which has stepped into the realm of deliveries, right? And it has already spoken to the governments, the necessary government, and confiscated zones in the sky. So, it has divided zones into A, B, and C. And depending on the weight of the aircraft, that specific aircraft can only fly in a certain zone. But at the same time, I mean, we already are, especially me living in Bangalore, what we hate is the traffic on the ground, right? And we don't want a similar scene in the skies. At least as of now, we have clear skies and it's so beautiful, and we don't want traffic jams in the sky again, populated by drones. So that's where traffic management becomes even more important. And we need to be able to, since on the road we have only one layer, but in the sky we have the ability to divide it into zones, which is very important, so that we have only restricted amount of flights depending on what the weights are to be allocated. And to be able to implement that, it's going to take some time, at least in India. And that's the reason I don't see deliveries taking shape anytime soon, at least in India. It might take a couple of more years, but depending on the way things are shaping up, I think US is going to be one of the first countries to basically take action on deliveries. It's only done it on an experiment basis, but it hasn't really turned into a reality where I can open up an Amazon app now, order something, and it reaches
Yeah.
in a drone. Yeah.
Absolutely. So if we discuss the future of this drone management system, I just visualize a system of network just like what we have for mobiles. The tracking is done, and the government is able to use data science to ensure that the aircraft which are flying and the drones, they don't come close by, using some technology like geofencing and restrictions
Correct.
which can be
Yeah.
built into the software itself. So every area should have a automated ATC for drones itself. So I visualize that kind of a concept coming in India in
Yeah.
soon. And let's not predict too many things with the manufacturing. That's the part we were likely to discuss. The manufacturing in India is just like a problem which is faced by other manufacturing units for drones also. India has not been able to manufacture mobiles, and similarly, we have a problem in the drones. It's not that it cannot be done; it's just that the government regulations are still, getting framed, and we are a large country, so DGCA is finding it difficult to implement pan India these regulations. So I feel that's one of the challenges, but it
Very
can go
true.
out in a very short while. So we cannot really predict when.
We
So that's
remember
it. Yeah,
what happened in Heathrow and also in Delhi when
Gatwick.
small drones were spotted by some airliner, and the air traffic had to be brought on to
Yeah.
a halt.
Yeah,
The thing
yeah,
is that many of our audience might think that a small drone like the one which maybe Kailash showed, the one which sits on your palm, what damage can it cause to a big airliner which is maybe 500 times, 8,000 times more size of that? Now, if you remember, a small bird is a flesh and soft material thing, tissues. If a small bird can cause an aircraft to fail, the engines to fail or land. If you remember Captain Sully landing in the Hudson River.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
imagine now a component which has got metallic parts, which has got moving parts, electronic transmitting parts. So, combine all of these and give it a velocity of say 30 to 40 kilometers per hour speed. So now, if such kind of thing goes into the aircraft, to the cockpit or to the into the engine, it's going to cause an havoc to the people as well as to the passenger sitting inside, and also threat onto the area over which is flying. Like the aircraft, it also cause damage to people on the ground. So to avoid all these things, we need to have a traffic management and a conscious, a discipline from the person who is operating these things legally. Of course, there are people who are violators. Traffic rules are always there, but you will still find people
Sure.
who are breaking, jumping red lights, who are traveling without helmets or not wearing seatbelts. But that is a very minuscule percentage. But that is the percentage which causes accidents and which brings bad name to the people who are following the rules. So
Exactly.
it is our
Exactly.
endeavor should be to, as far as I am concerned, I should follow the rules and keep a check on people who are not doing.
Meanwhile, what we can do is we can start answering some of the questions that the attendees have started asking.
Yeah, sure, we
Uh,
can do that. I think.
Okay, or maybe let's go for the first question instead of the last question. And this is a very complex question. Sandesh is asking about, you know, what is the technology used inside the drone? That's a very early question, and I think that's a very complex one, and it's going to be quite a detailed one. I think you need to conduct a course on it. But in short, in precise, if you can explain, it will be really nice.
Kailash, I think you can add to
I
it.
think a very brief explanation of
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
Please go ahead. Go
yeah,
ahead.
right. Yeah, sure. So I think Commander Milind has already given a brief, but I'll quickly tell you if I have to explain in the simplest way, a drone technology, we have four rotors, which are motors, and there are ESCs. The closest relation I can give to an ESC is all of us have fans in our house, and you have a controller to control the speed of the fan, right? So these are basically four independent ESC for each of these motors. There's a microcontroller, a CPU kind of a thing, a computer, which kind of controls how much it has to compensate. And what drones that we see nowadays, it has a beautiful technology. So if I take an example, if say for example this drone is hovering in the air and there is wind coming from this side, the propellers on the opposite side automatically start spinning at a higher RPM to compensate for the wind and stay in position. So this is done automatically and it kind of manages to hold its position beautifully. So it also uses GPS coordinates to stay in place. And this is the fundamental technology, if I have to explain in the simplest way, what is used inside the drone. Yeah.
Beautiful. I'll lay out the next
beautiful.
question here. Are there any institutes that can teach us in this area? Anyone can take it.
So there is an institution. There are a couple of universities in the US that is providing full-time courses, degrees as well as master degrees in drone technology. I'm not sure if something very similar is provided in India, but there are lots of courses, online courses as well as workshops where you can learn both creating or building a drone as well as programming a built drone. So there are two parts to it. So there are a lot of workshops, and we can always share that information that can be used by people.
Yeah, in India also a lot of organizations have come out who are doing the drone-based training, and they have a pan-India network, and we can share with Dheya separately who all are involved and what all trainings they give. In fact, they will help to get you the certification after the training because they are DGCA approved, Director General Civil Aviation approved organization. So yes, there is a training and licensing part which is being done in India. Digital Sky is the portal which has been made by DGCA for people to register their drones.
Question answer was.
Yeah, and take their initiative forward. Yeah.
From the career aspect, I can say that the drones in general can be divided into four parts. Okay, one is the component which is in the air, which is the aircraft and the cameras or the payloads which is carrying. Second part is on the ground, the one which is controlling that UAV. Third is the support services, which is control, which is giving authority or guidance or permissions to the. But the main and important thing is the one which is connecting the ground segment to the air segment, which is the communication. So from the career aspect, these many fields you can work upon. You can work upon if you have them. If you want to learn something about the communication, the RF protocols, how to establish secured communication between the aircraft so that it cannot be jammed or it cannot be decoded by somebody else. That's a different study in itself. How to design a ground station is a big subject in itself. So if you have interest in graphics, if you have interest in visual designing, then that's a field for you. You can design a ground station which is ergonomic in from all point of view. If you are interested in composites and those kind of things, you can design
Yeah. To add to
an
that,
aircraft
yeah.
material which makes it strong but light. You can design the, if you have interest in the electrical sides, you can design the ESCs. If you have interest in coding, you can write a software for the autopilot. You can make it as autonomous as possible, so that you don't have even have to do anything about that. You just put the aircraft on ground, you press a button, and the aircraft launches and comes back and lands on the same place. So it's up to you what kind of field you want to get in. If you want to get into even as an ATC operator, you have so much of things which you can subsequently get into an UAV field.
So, Atul, to add to that, today the most interesting field which is open for everybody to work on is the anti-drone technology. The
Yes.
reason why government is not able to handle this is because there is no anti-drone technology. And just yesterday night, a video has come out where a US warship is shooting down a drone using a laser beam. It's been
Yes.
doing
Yeah.
the rounds, right?
Yeah.
So, getting a drone, which is a rogue drone, that's the word generally used,
Mhm.
is a challenge, because how do we control it? And we can't even track where the guy is. So there are some technologies available in the military domain where the place from which the
Yes.
drone is being controlled and the drone where it is can be identified, and they are realities, but they are more from military perspective,
Yeah.
because drones have a lot of risk
Sure.
involved. We
Sure.
saw in the Saudi
Yeah.
the drone attack which happened. Okay, they were just one
Yes.
way drones, and they were weaponized, and they could do a lot of damage. So when somebody is looking at career, so they can look at anti-drone technology, and the one who can make that is a billionaire, I can assure you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I know. There is always a dark side to any good technology, drone terrorism, hacking of drones, and all that. And that anti-drone technology is very much important in such situation. Uh, there are some more questions. Maybe if I can start reading out those questions. There are questions from two people, and I think they are pretty much on the same lines. PGR Nair, Anirban Chatterjee both have asked a question about licensing. Do we need a license to fly a drone? And do we need to get a training to acquire a license?
Uh, yeah, maybe Kailash, I don't know whether you are a licensed pilot or not, but you are
You would
supposed to
be.
have a license to
I
fly
am,
a.
I am. Yeah,
Good,
yeah.
good. So I think you can explain more on that. Yeah.
So yeah, definitely. You need to be able to legally fly drones. You need a license. You can apply for it. You can definitely go for a training, but that's optional. But you will have to pass a test. So when you go to the DGCA, there will be a small examination kind of a thing where they kind of quickly test your skills on it. You will have to apply for it, and it's not that once you get a license, you can just fly it whenever you want and wherever you want. Even in that scenario, you will have to update the DGCA, also the premises where you're going to be filming. So I recently filmed the Vidhan Sabha, which is the government office in Bangalore. For that, I
Mm-hmm.
had to inform the government authority as well as DGCA, and they also sent a constable along with me to help me sort out any issues, and we went ahead and we flew there. So yes, you will have to apply for it. It also depends on the weight of your aircraft, right? You will have to have a certain weight amount that you can fly, and depending on the weight, it depends on where exactly you can fly and how high you can fly. At the same time, I'm not sure how many of you are aware, by January 31st, the government of India and DGCA released a very wonderful option where anyone who owns a drone can go ahead and register, no questions asked. They can go
All
ahead,
right.
they can register the drones, and that is going to be considered fine and legal. He still needs to take permissions to be able to fly, but he can own it. After 31st of December, sorry, January, if anyone owns a drone and he is not registered, he can be legally penalized. So these are the
Oh,
fundamental rules and regulations that we need to follow. But having said all of that, I don't
sure.
see they might take some time. But see, today in India, you can own a weapon. Legally, you can own a weapon. You can apply for it, and for self protection, you can own a weapon. So there's no reason why drones should not be legalized. But of course, they're trying to put a process in place, and once that's in place, it should become much more easier for to apply for licenses. Yeah.
That
Yes.
permission which you were talking, Kalash, is called the unique identification number for each drone,
Yeah.
and also a pilot has to has his unmanned aircraft operator's permit. That is also there. So that's kind of a license, a driving license kind of thing. It's a permit to fly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Correct.
of course this does not apply for the nano drones, which is less than 250 grams.
Right. Right.
And no
And
foreigner is allowed
also,
to fly in India. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
also what I understand is that before you fly a zone, you just need to use an app to get a permission to
Yeah.
fly
Yeah.
through the
Digital
app.
sky. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, digital
Digital
sky.
sky.
Yeah.
Otherwise, no. It's called NPNT. No permission, no takeoff. I mean, that's
No
the kind of
permission.
software they are trying to inbuilt. So maybe
Yes.
drones will have a SIM where they can identify each of them. So it's just go like a mobile phone. That same technology is going to be replicated most probably. And the
All right.
control signals also have a frequency issue. So wireless planning and coordination, WPC ministry is quite involved in this field. Yeah.
All right. There's a question from Tarun Bhima. I'm a Java developer. How can I become a developer in drone technology and see this as a profession? Maybe Kailash, if you could answer this.
Yeah, definitely. I think you're in the right place and you are in a domain which is required a lot right now. So, whenever we talk about drone technology, there are two parts of it, right? So, one is the process of creating a drone. So, that is a different part where we talk about the internals and how do you build a drone. The other part is you already have a drone and you're wanting to program it in terms of automation and how exactly are you using this technology, in what industry are you applying it. And if I have to tell you, one of the most upcoming technologies or areas is swarm drones, where you're talking about multiple drones, a team of drones that can talk to each other, communicate to each other, and work as a team. So today, using a swarm drone can actually construct a house. They can take bricks and cements from one place and actually go ahead and do that, what humans used to do, right? So that's an area I think you should be able to get into. There are SDKs available free for you to download a software development kit from various manufacturers. The most popular, of course, being DJI. You can go to the
Yeah.
DJI site, you can go ahead and download the SDK, you can download that. The kit itself provides some predefined modules that you can use all permutations and combinations and start programming and teach yourself. And then you can get into a more sophisticated approach where you can try to build or solve a use case. Yeah.
All right. There's one more question from Soham Kulkarni. When will the drones become affordable and practical? I think it's a relevant question, but also relative in terms of what you mean by affordable.
Yeah.
I mean, if I have to say this drone probably cost you around $5 or $10, maybe, because I got it for free.
Yeah.
But I know it's a relevant question, and if you could answer that.
Yeah. So maybe I can say it depends on the application for which the drone you are taking. A small hobby drone, like you showed, is for about $50, $100. There are some better versions. The drone itself is a flying body, and the payload, the type of camera which you want to use. Like Kailash said, he did a photography where he could, go into more details of what he was getting into. So the expenses go up based on the type of camera, which in any case, anybody, when he buys a camera, he pays more for the pixelate and the kind of clarity which he looks in the camera. So a drone is based on the application, but where outsiders have taken an advantage in manufacturing is because they go into volumes, because they have a market
Yeah.
that they support. India, the hobby market is still flooded by DJI and likes, coming from one or two countries specifically. Whereas a lot of electronics can be made by Taiwan, or in US also we get some flight controllers from there. So the expenses are dependent on the application for which you want the drone. You want a hobby drone, I think they are within some cost, but the drones which Kailash has showed, they're available on Amazon and all, are slightly expensive. They go into few lakhs.
Right.
If you can own a smartphone, I think a hobby drone will come within that.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. An interesting question from Aditya Srikar. Can a drone lift a person? And I think that also brings to another discussion about AAVs, autonomous aerial vehicles, where these companies like Uber and Boeing are investing heavily in transporting people, autonomous vehicles. So can a drone lift a person? And
Yeah.
are there technologies which actually are involved in doing such person-to-person travel?
Sure. The drone
location-to-person travel.
Drone can lift a person, absolutely no doubt. There are a lot of models which have been tried world over. In India, you are not allowed to make anybody sit or an animal sit in a drone. It's illegal. But drones have been successfully tested for being taxis, where they can get a man from one place to the other. And autonomously, yes, you give the GPS coordinate, it just takes off on its own, goes to the place and lands automatically. And if there is a battery which goes weakened, which is in present drones also, the drone returns to home. So it's pretty safe that way. And yes, man can be carried in a drone. Technically, yes.
There's a video by Casey
right,
Neistat on YouTube. You might want to check it out, where he's lifted himself using a drone. Casey Neistat, a very popular person on YouTube. You can check it out.
Yeah.
All right. Beautiful. All right. Charudatta Bede, I think he's a student. He's asking a question for a CPL or commercial pilot license. A BSc is required and PCM is required. For a drone pilot, is there any such minimum qualification? I think, I mean, if I have to give my perspective, this industry is wide. I mean, it's definitely a technology industry. Probably PCM is pretty much a necessity from an India perspective. But ultimately, it's all about utilizing and harnessing these technologies to various applications.
So, Atul, maybe I can just slightly clarify on that.
Yeah.
The question is, do you require this kind of? No, there is no limit which has been put by DGCA. However, when you go for licensing, it's better that you go through the institution which have been, cleared by DGCA. It's a more of a skill which they test, and obviously a basic knowledge, right? That you should know what you are talking about, and you should know how to control it, and you should understand the system as a whole. So there is no basic thing which is mean you can apply for license and fly. Like if you want to cover a marriage, event, so you can go take permission and then do the photography, and you have a drone photography, but you have to take permissions. As Kailash was saying, you have to take the police post around your place needs to be informed. And even if you are using a drone, which are internal drones, I mean, there are drones which can be operated within the rooms. It's you can use them. If they are nano drones, you can use them. But it's always good to keep the advisory is keep the police station informed that you are going to use the drone. So I think that answers.
All right, perfect. I think we are pretty much close to end of the session. I know there are quite a few questions, and we'll try to answer in just two or 3 minutes. There's one question from TV Sita Rama Rao. How much wind turbulence drone can resist, and what is the permitted or allowed height of a drone to fly?
So the height generally cleared is about 200 feet of altitude. This is for the civilians, but for military, we have drones which touch 20,000 feet. We have tried them.
Absolutely.
And can go up to minus 20 degrees centigrade. And the limits are not based on technology, it's based on the remote pilot licensing. Whenever they apply for this, they are going to be given all these values as to whether the drone is a nano drone or a micro drone, and what are the altitudes up to which they can fly. So these all will be
All
covered
right.
during this.
Wind turbulence will all depend upon your capability of the machine, because the more winds are there, the more the ESC has to work, the more current will be drawn, the battery will drain out faster, because the aircraft has to stop its movement. So wind is totally depending upon your capability of the machine, how much
Yes.
strong you can build it. That is what.
Yeah, that's engineering. We do a flow analysis for the drones using the software to find out how much it can do, the balancing and the
All right.
ruggedness of the drone. Yeah.
All right. There are other questions, a lot of questions, but I'll just pick one or two right now because we are almost out of time. One question is from Kandaregula Jaganandil. India can be manufacturing base for drones? He's asking a question. Can India be a manufacturing base for drones? My perspective, from a recreational drone perspective, there's a significant dominance from China. And with Make in India and other initiatives from the government, we probably would have good opportunities. But maybe if Milind, if you could give your perspective, because your
sure.
company does a lot of manufacturing of drones,
sure.
and you have been connected with the other startups as well.
Yeah, sure. So drone manufacturing in India is possible. There are two types of so-called manufacturing happening. One is people actually cut the frames, do the aerodynamics of the body and manufacture. Other is that people get it, import the stuff and integrate it. They're more like integrators of the drone. Definitely, just like any other manufacturing industry which has suffered because of Chinese bulk production, which is so cheap, and the technology money they keep putting back into technology, and they're always cutting edge.
Exactly.
As the DJI mode they have the drone which he showed, people will prefer for the same $100 to buy something which gives more features. So India has advantage which is evolving, because import of drones and drone components are getting very restricted by the government. Whenever you fly into India, they do ask in the form whether are you carrying a drone. So you're not supposed to be in any case having a drone in the aircraft with you, but even in the luggage you are supposed to declare the utilization and what you want to do with the drone. And so if India becomes, as Prime Minister says, Atmanirbhar, if that is the word, so we can be making drones. It's not a difficult technology, I can say that.
The know-how is already there.
Yeah.
Sorry? The know-how is already there.
Already there.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. All right. I think we are almost out of time, and maybe if we could have our closing thoughts, maybe let's start with
there are two more
Kailash.
questions I'd like you to take on. Things which is asked by Sanjay Mulesari. He says, how many years do you think drones will become a staple day-to-day India? This is very important, because when we are looking at that stage, there are a lot of careers that can be built in, a lot of occupations that will come in, and so that people can get ready for that particular time. So anybody can answer this.
Yeah, if I take on that in the beginning, others can add. See, we cannot predict many things, because we don't have the astrology kind of a mindset. But if you look at the technology, the way it is evolving, the way during the COVID times, drones were permitted by DGCA. There was a special permission which was given for the police authorities to use drone in the Indian skies to monitor various things, like how the implementation of the rules and regulations of COVID are happening. It is the growth can happen very rapidly. There shouldn't be any problem.
Yeah, and as I said, the Beyond Visual Line of Sight trials are going to take place by this year end. We will have much more clarity on these aspects. So let's wait. It's on the half year is almost over. So another 6 months we'll come to know there will be new regulations, new policies, which should give more freedom to the operator as well as to the manufacturer in India.
Kailash, your take on this?
Yeah, I think in a way, like I agree with what Commander Milind said. In a way, the implications have already started. We have started using it, and in the COVID situation, we have already seen it, and permissions are being granted. So we are already in a time where drones are being used. When it becomes staple and day to day, I mean, to my guess, it would be anything between by 2025. I think we should see on a daily basis usage of drones. Yeah.
So just to last point in that, let's look at why they have not grown in India. It's because the restrictive nature of government policies, which is still, they are also justifiable. They don't know how to control the drone space. So these are the main factors which have limited the growth of drone.
Okay.
Right.
So Atul, I think you can conclude.
Yes. Final thoughts, Kailash?
Yeah, I was just saying, I was thanking Deha, in fact, for creating this platform. It was nice to interact with everyone and also increase our own boundaries of communication and networking. So, a good platform. Thanks again. I mean, if there is anything in future that people can reach out to, like I said, like already Atul mentioned, I also have a YouTube channel. So, do check out. There's a lot of information over there as well. So, please stay connected. Whoever wants to ask any specific questions directly, they can reach me on the YouTube channel itself. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for the opportunity, Deha.
All right. Commander Milind, your
Yeah.
thoughts, please.
Yeah, sure. So to summarize, actually, I can say drones is like computers in 90s. They are just the tools and the software and the languages which may evolve, which will solve human aspect with AI and IoT and AR, VR. I think drone is the future, and presently it has got a lot of applications, and people should take it as a passion and start getting into it. Otherwise, in a couple of years, they'll find themselves out of understanding of the technology, which is very important. That's my suggestion to people who are looking at drones.
Great. Thank you.
We are very
Commander,
loaded with questions.
Som,
Atul, just
your thoughts, final thoughts?
Like many other systems which we have seen that they have peaked out. Drones is one such industry which is, I will still say that in spite of having so many capabilities, it's still at a very uh, initial stages, nascent stages, and there is a lot of scope for it to develop and to grow. And that, therefore, there is a lot of chances for the students, especially, to get into this field. And as I said, the field is so vast that it's very difficult to explain in this 1.5 hours, and you can see how quickly the time was spent. And we have not even touched half of the subject. There is so much. We have still not gotten into types of operations which we can do with these drones. The types of hobby, even in the hobby, the racing itself is a different field in drones. So medical use, defense use, military use, space use, you just name it, and the drones can be used, because to remove the human being from that and utilize him from some other place, it's not that the man is totally out of the loop in the drone system. The man is there, but he is being utilized for multitasking of different sensors and different platforms at the same time. So you should keep your interests alive in this field of drones development. Keep reading about different types of drones. What is the new thing, which is latest thing, which is happening in drones, and that is how we can go ahead with it. And thank you very much here for giving me this opportunity to come online and interact with you all, and also enhance my knowledge on many such topics on this Jubilee talk. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It was such a wonderful and insightful discussion on the drone industry. I'm sure today's youth will be inspired and will seek their careers in this drone industry. So, on behalf of the Dheya team, I thank you, all of you, for joining us today. And with that, I would like to close this discussion. And before I close this discussion, I would leave all of you with a video that Kailash had created, just to show some beautiful things what drone can do while filming some nice architecture. All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.